I was reading the IDW comics in order when I came across a particularly disturbing comic. This is Spotlight Megatron. If you wanted to read it before I summarize it, stop now and check the link in the description. Now occasionally IDW put out these Spotlight comics that would focus specifically on one character, and this one is about Megatron returning from near death in a brand new body. It's a classic story, except the state of Starscream is very tragic. Here is the context. The Decepticons had attacked Earth and Megatron was gravely injured. This was not Starscream's fault, but during these 3 years Megatron was being rebuilt, Starscream took command of the beaten Decepticons. He struggled to get them to acknowledge him, and he wore the Matrix they had stolen from Optimus and claimed that it had in fact chosen him. Except that it didn't actually win him any respect either. The Decepticons are stuck on an asteroid and mostly using their resources on fixing Megatron and building a space bridge inside his body. But as the Decepticons run out of energon, they start to kill and eat each other. Starscream is highly opposed to this, but is distressed because he cannot stop them. Megatron wakes up and finds the Decepticons in this awful state, weak, damaged, and incapable of repairs, and Starscream full of misery and guilt. Megatron is appalled by what happened to his troops in just 3 years, and intends to punish Starscream for it. Now generally in a Starscream beating, there are viewers or readers claiming that Starscream deserved it because he tried to kill Megatron. Now in the past, Starscream had tried to usurp Megatron, but it was not out of greed. IDW Starscream had respected Megatron, but then legitimately believed Megatron was insane and unfit to lead. He thought Megatron was causing an endless war. But Megatron had already fought Starscream, destroyed him, and Starscream came back to pledge his loyalty. This Starscream had actually been quite loyal when he had opportunities to betray Megatron. He has acted like a traitor to the Autobots, only to trick the Autobots and reunite with Megatron. And here is the real tragic thing to know before Megatron beats Starscream. Starscream had just been the one who saved Megatron's life. He stopped the Autobots from killing Megatron and brought his injured body back. Megatron asks to be left alone so that the entirety of Starscream's world shall be anguish. He wants to punish Starscream for the shape of the Decepticons, but opens the door and already finds him crushed by guilt and despair. He lies on the floor in the shadows, not responding till Megatron kicks him and starts talking about Starscream's 3-year rule. Now Starscream has a sensitive reaction and asks why Megatron is doing this. He does not want to be humiliated over something he already feels terrible about, and just wants Megatron to skip to the physical punishment. Megatron acts dumb and asks Starscream if he thinks he deserves the punishment. Starscream hates the game because he knows Megatron really intends to hurt him, so he grabs his blaster and presses it to his chest, screaming at Megatron to just kill him already. This is a big deal when you consider the character Starscream. He cares so much about staying alive that he is known as a coward. Starscream does not do anything dangerous unless he is sure he has the upper hand, and when threatened, a typical Starscream escapes the wrath of his aggressor by convincing them through words. IDW Starscream is generally smooth and charming when interacting with potentially dangerous bots. For any Starscream of any franchise to be pushed to the point of wanting to die demonstrates that he has been shattered. Another character wishing for death does not have the same impact as the master of self-preservation wishing for it. So Megatron is surprised and begins to realize how damaged Starscream is, and he is disappointed because there's no sport in punishing someone who wants to be killed. Despite Starscream's outburst, Megatron continues to humiliate him by telling the story of Starscream's failed rule. He mocks Starscream for wearing the Matrix and acting like it could have made him a better leader. Megatron goes on, and Starscream just stands there and absorbs the verbal beatdown. And trust me, it isn't just going to be words. Megatron notices how depressed Starscream is and wonders if Starscream had destroyed himself with his failure. But Megatron gets frustrated that Starscream is staying silent, and he continues his long rant, finally getting to the death and cannibalism under Starscream's rule. Starscream seems to start to visibly crumble, but Megatron adds that this is what happens when someone like Starscream gets what he wants. He asks Starscream if he is proud, then mockingly says, "All hail Starscream." At last, Starscream is in such a state of high stress that he desperately wants to get out of the situation. Without thinking, he shoots Megatron and yells for him to stop it. And then, realizing he just accidentally shot Megatron, Starscream realizes the consequences, panics, and flees. Megatron is very happy that this happened. Ever since he woke up, he had wanted to beat the crap out of Starscream just as a stress relief. He wanted it to be like normal, to put Starscream in his place and dominate him. His intentions were very bad from the start, considering that this attack on Starscream is not done out of revenge. Considering the guilty state Starscream already was in, nothing needed to be done. Starscream hated himself for his failed leadership and what had happened. He did not want to overthrow Megatron. Nevertheless, Megatron still pushed him because he wanted to hurt Starscream for his own pleasure. Now that Starscream is running and showing some sign of a will to live, Megatron is exhilarated by the hunt. He easily catches up with Starscream with his new jet form. As he fires on Starscream, he continues to insult him. Megatron also considers Starscream's emotional trauma and wonders how much of Starscream wants to live or die. He thinks Starscream actually craves to be punished for his failure. Additionally, Megatron thinks of other times in the future when he will hurt Starscream, but now is more important because he needs to make an example of someone to get the Decepticon ranks in order. Megatron knocks Starscream out of the sky and tackles him. Angrily, he calls out how out of character he is being and asks if Starscream wants to be killed right now. Starscream says yes, and Megatron asks him again, only for Starscream to cry out yes again. Instead of ending him, however, Megatron continues the insults in order to make Starscream react again. Making him stressed about his guilt causes Starscream to struggle to escape, firing at Megatron again. Because Starscream ran again, Megatron says that Starscream doesn't actually want to die but wants to be punished. So Megatron gladly obliges and beats Starscream to a pulp while insulting him the entire time, describing how un-Starscream this is of him just to take this abuse. At last, Starscream opens up but does not expect Megatron to understand. He talks about how much it hurt to finally have his dream of leadership, only for no one to listen to him no matter how hard he tried. In a previous comic, Starscream was actually given the option to mind control the Decepticons, but he did not want to do it because he wanted to be followed willingly. This may be the IDW tragedy of Starscream because he does not seem to want absolute power at all, but the love and respect of others. Not being followed and adored easily like Megatron wounded him deeply. And this is just a random reference, but Starscream suffered the same way in the Christmas special when he was alone and unappreciated. He was miserable, but the moment he was visited and given attention, he perked up with elation. Starscream tells all this to Megatron, but Megatron clearly does not care, and that bothers Starscream. It seems he wants to tell this story for someone to care, but it isn't what he is going to get. His emotions only make Megatron go into a rage. Megatron worked so hard to build this faction, and the Decepticons under him were powerful, destroying worlds. His dream was shattered by Starscream, who he blames for reducing his powerful Decepticon army to this. Megatron decides to smash Starscream's face into the ground a few times before claiming that the one who ruined both their lives and dreams was Starscream. A fourth time, Starscream says that he should just be killed. Megatron does not kill him and explains that keeping Starscream around makes him a sharper leader. Starscream's occasional ambitions, Megatron's fear of the Decepticons being ruled by someone like him if he were to die. It makes him remember to watch his back. Starscream begins to say thank you, but Megatron interrupts him and says that he will repay him instead of thanking him. The end of the beatdown, the chase, and the beating into the ground happened in front of the other Decepticons. Megatron carries on his speech to rally the Decepticons and get them cheering. Immediately, Starscream is forgotten and left to pick himself up. This Spotlight comic shows incredible cruelty on Megatron's part and the deep emotions of Starscream, traumatized by guilt and rejection. It proves Starscream's desire for love and acknowledgement, and that Megatron's reasons for abusing Starscream are for his own mental stability.